So, welcome everybody. This is another Show Your Mix session on HOFA, on our HOFA YouTube channel. The name is the program you send in your mix, and we listen to it, and we will give you valuable feedback to your mix. It's pretty easy. You just send a mix, easiest as an MP3 to the following email address, which is shown below. Yeah, showyourmix@hofa.de. This is an English session today, so everybody speak in English, and the live chat is in English as well. So yeah, start sending in your mixes. I'm curious what it's going to be today. First, let me introduce myself and my colleagues. This time, this is Daniel from our HOFA-College team. There
Hi.
he is.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here today, and I'm also looking forward to the mixes that you will send in.
Yeah, I'm really curious again. So be busy and sending in, and maybe a few words about the concept of the Show Your Mix session. You send your mixes, and we will, not choose one, but rather randomly pick one and put it in. So we don't know what's coming, and doesn't matter whether it's hip hop or rock or electronic music, whatever. We're going to listen to everything, and we will give you feedback. And after choosing or randomly choosing one, Daniel's going to give me a thumbs up, and we will listen to the first one. So, yeah, you've seen the address, and you can send it in. Maybe one thing while we're waiting on Daniel to choose one of the submissions. There's another contest where you can send in your work, your mix or your remix of the HOFA Xmas Mix Contest song this year, and it's still running, and you can still download the track and upload your mix or remix and win really great prizes. The main prize is €1,000 each for the best mix or remix, but there are great prizes from our sponsors and supporters, which is very, a great thing. So, Daniel, what's happening?
Yeah, I'm looking through our submissions, and I think we'll have our first one in a minute. I'll just need some time to transfer the files.
Okay, maybe as I said before, it's like I said, the easiest way for us is if you send in an MP3 via email. This is not the best quality, of course, but if you choose 256 or 320 kilobit per second, that's really great. And another possibility would be to send us a download link, not something like a Spotify or a SoundCloud link, but we transfer whatever. So, okay, here's the first one.
Yes. It's from Dominik Winkel, and he wrote, "Dear HOFA team, here you find my contribution to your Show Your Mix session. My newest orchestral track, Waves of Memories, composed, orchestrated and produced by me, made with sample libraries, mainly symphonic orchestra from East West and Cubase. I would like to dedicate this piece to all of our dear deceased who will always stay alive in our memories. I'm a non-professional music maker, so I'll be very happy about your feedback. Thanks a lot."
Okay, as I can see when I put the file into Cubase and I'm actually just analyzing it, it's a very dynamic piece of music. It's about almost 4 minutes long, and the analyzer curve, if you can see it here, is that's a typical orchestral instrumentation with a not too pronounced high end, but a rather mid and low mid-range based frequency curve. And the song is called Waves of Memory. Just let's start. Jesse, let me jump a little bit further in the song. Okay, nice one. So Daniel, if you don't mind, I start with the analyst.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's not your cup of tea, especially. But yeah, let's talk about first about the piece of music that you sent in. I like the instrumentation and the arrangement very much. I think the dynamic build up and the decrease down at the end is very nice. It's well done and very controlled. For my personal opinion, I would have to hear another chord or another chord progression at one or the other spot, but it's okay. These two chords changing just on and off, that's okay, because you keep the song interesting by adding different colors, different instruments, and building it up with the orchestral arrangement. That's fine for me. So, talking about the mix, maybe I should first put in some technical remarks. The sound is very wide. It's very, very stereo, and maybe a little bit too much. So maybe you noticed in the mix I switched to mono in one spot, and the mix went from this to, of course, and it also got quite a lot. Just let me show you maybe somewhere in the song. There are, of course, a lot of stereo informations in an orchestra. That's pretty normal, and it's a good thing. But this mix is a little bit too wide, because a lot of information is only on the outside, or is on the sides of the mix, and not in the mid of the mix, in the center. So maybe you should take a look at the analyzer or frequency goniometer in the mix, because there are some spots where you can see it's getting red, and especially in the beginning it was very strong. Here. And especially the out of phase range in the low bass range it's pretty critical. For example, if you ever want to publish your music on a vinyl LP, this would be not easy for the cutter to make a good master. That's one technical aspect I wanted to mention, and another one. Just let me check the audio level. I think. Okay, you probably normalized it, because I was sure there were some true peaks, but they are pretty much in control, so that's fine. Yeah, let's talk about the sound of the mix. for me, it sounds very balanced concerning the levels. I think I know exactly what you want to have in the end, and which instrument is a leading instrument and which instrument is supposed to be farther in the background. And that also fits the spatial impression. I like the reverb and the room on the different mics. They all fit pretty much together, even though some instruments are a little bit more in the front than others. For example, I think the piano is a little bit too direct, maybe a little bit. It should be more spatial in that context. That one sounds a little bit like it is not from the same library than other instruments. And the piano is also the one that sounds a little bit, artificial and technical somehow. Maybe you could choose a sound that's a little bit more suitable for an orchestral arrangement. It's almost like a pop or rock piano. The strings sound great in most part, woodwinds and the brass instruments as well. I also like the reverb you used on them. I think the cymbals are a little bit too loud though. They are really brilliant and bright and loud, so they come a little bit too close to the front of the mix. And that is not especially realistic, because in a real orchestra, the cymbals and the percussion instruments are behind the strings and the brass section, and that should be should be true in my opinion in a virtual orchestra as well. What else? One thing, I like the reverb, I like the spatiality, but as I said before, the mix is too wide for me. And there are some instruments, for example, some strings, who are very far to one side, but there's a lot of reverb on them, and that's not realistic in the sense of spaciousness and depth in a mix, because a lot of reverb means they are in a big room, in a hall, whatever, and they are a little bit farther behind than other instruments. But instruments that are close to one side, they come forward, and so you have a weird spatial impression of instruments that are close to the front of the mix, and at the same moment, a lot of reverb implies that they are in the back of the mix. So maybe you could make it all a little bit narrower and put it all together in a little bit closer to the center of the mix. Well, that's it from me. Maybe Daniel, if you want to say something to that song as well.
I think you said pretty much everything. I also noticed especially the aspect with the piano, that it sounded a bit too technical, and also the articulation of the piano sounded a bit too mechanical, like all the notes. Like I noticed how he changed up the velocity, which was great because it sounded more natural, but also the articulation of how the notes were hit was a bit mechanical, like they all hit at once. Which, if you play the piano, you know, you would hit them like a bit delayed from each other, only by a couple of milliseconds, but that would make the piano maybe a bit more alive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's a nice one. So, that's it from that one. But Dominic, a nice arrangement, nice sounds, and I hope our feedback was valuable to you, and you could use it for your further songs and arrangements and mixes. So, For Low is asking how to send a song. It's pretty easy. Just send an email to showyourmix@hofa.de and attach for the easiest way, an MP3. Or if you want to send a WAV or a higher resolution file, send it via a download link. But I must say, I prefer a high resolution MP3 with 256 or 320 kilobit per second. Okay, there's a new one.
Yes.
Yes. Can you say something to that?
Yeah. It's from Kevin Kurtz, and he says, "Hi everyone, the band is called Pearls, and the song is known as Nothing But an Unknown Call. The song is 1 year old, but I still want to hear your analysis about that." Yeah, so the drums are from Superior Drummer, guitars, Marshall with SM75 and an SM7B. The bass is DI and Neural DSP Dark Glass, and the vocals were recorded with a Newman U87 and a Neve 1073. Yeah, that was it.
Okay, nice equipment on the vocals at least.
Yeah.
So, I already put it in Cubase, and the first thing I notice, it is mastered, or at least it's limited. There's a pretty heavy compression on it. It's really loud. What do the analyzers say? It has, wow, minus 6.6 LUFS. That is really, really peep loud. Okay, yeah, okay. I have to put down the volume because the song before was so dynamic and much, much quieter. So I hope that is okay. Okay, I'm curious what it's gonna sound like.
Take a deep breath, I don't wanna know what you're trying to tell me. It will always be contaminated. Keep your words to yourself. Do you think that I'm really just an easy invader? You kept me company, but I was all alone, all alone. These times are over now, 'cause I keep moving on. It is the right thing to do. Now you convince me that I'm wrong. From now on, you're nothing to me but an unknown call. You gave me stones when I gave you gold. Getting rid of the doubt.
Okay, try to jump to another part. This one looks different a little bit.
It is the right.
Okay.
Gave me stones when I gave you gold.
Okay, that's a rock song this time. So, oh well, what can I say about the song? First, it sounds pretty good. Both the mix, the arrangement, and songwriting, it's on a rather high level. I guess it's you, Black Tail 99. You mastered it like other production in these genres, Slash, Alter Bridge, and stuff like that. Yeah, it's true. It's as loud as these songs, but still there are some differences. In my opinion, the days for such loud masters are not completely over, but it's not necessary to mass it that loud, and so maybe 1 or 2 dB RMS or LUFS less in the end, and it could breathe a little bit more, and it would be a little bit more dynamic, because in the end, especially in the end of the song, you can hear that there's some heavy compression going on. It sounds a little bit distorted, it sounds a little bit pumping, especially in guitars and the cymbals, and also the transients of the drums are squeezed and crushed a little bit. You can't avoid it with a song that loud. The transients of especially snare drum will get squeezed a little bit, and that's it's not necessary these days anymore. But nonetheless, a good mix in many ways, not perfect in all aspects, but on a pretty good level, and I like the way the song is written, and I like the performance a lot, especially of guitars and vocals, which I think are the two musicians in this song. Drums are programmed probably, or at least, as you said, used with a superior drummer, and I have the suspicion that the guitar player is the bass player as well, and because the bass is a little bit somewhere not on the loud side, and it could use a little bit more power and a little bit a little bit more energy in the low end, and that's true for the whole mix. While the guitars sound really great and powerful, the low end bass and bass drum is a little bit too weak in my opinion for a punchy and powerful rock sound. There could be more energy in the low end. As you can see on the analyzer, there is some energy, but it's not really balanced. There's a low peak at 50 hertz, and then a complete dip where it's going down a few dB in the upper bass range, and then the range from 100 to 150 hertz is loud again, and then another dip. And so for a more stable and balanced low end, which sounds good on different systems, not only on your speakers at home, maybe more balanced low end is necessary. And the bass could be a little bit louder too, in my opinion. I think it needs a little bit more drive. The drums sound pretty good. Bass drum needs more boom in the low end, but it's very audible, and it's clear and it's distinct, and that's a good thing. The snare already sounds a little bit affected by the limiting. The transients are a little bit broken, and the room of the snare gets a little bit too loud, and it could be more punchy, more there could be more attack from the snare, but maybe less limiting and more transients from the snare. I like the guitars. I already said that. I especially like the aspect that they are not too distorted. There's no high gain on the guitar, but they're still dynamic, and there's still some life in the sounds, and the performance is great. And guitar solo it's not the thing everybody is doing these days, but it's really interesting. It doesn't get boring through the 4 minutes of the song. And great guitar work, and great vocal work too. The singer is great. She has a nice voice. Reminds me of some singers. I can't remember the name or the band of from the late 90s, early 2000s. There were some female rock singers those days. Sounds great. The technical aspect of the recording, I can tell that it's well done. The sound is clear and very it cuts through the mix in a nice way. I think for such a song it's a little bit too loud. You can also see that the range from here, from 700 to like 3 or 4, even 5K, and the mix is a little bit loud and overly pronounced and emphasized. It could be, yeah, maybe 1 or 2 to be quieter in the mix and would still be loud enough. In comparison to the rather dense and tight mix, the vocals are still somewhat too dynamic and could use a bit more control. I don't think compression, but maybe even more automation and level control with faders or group compression, maybe somewhere in a vocal group. But still, great sound, great performance from the vocals, and what I didn't mention so far, I also like the depth and the reverbs and the spatial impression of the mix. It's still very in your face, but has also some nice spatial depth. Good work in many points. So I've been talking for another half an hour, I have the feeling. So maybe Daniel, a few words from you?
Well, rock is not my specialty, but I also really like the guitars. Also from an arrangement standpoint, the guitar solo was great. It was also mixed great. And the intro also really captured my ear because it was like the guitars were first panned to the right, and then after the first 4 or 8 bars, they came back into the middle. So that was really intriguing. I really liked that, yeah. And also what you said about the drums and the drum mixing, I can totally agree with that.
Cool. So I hope Blacktail that gives you some input for the next mixes, but still there's not much to improve. Great work. So Daniel, what's next?
Okay, next we have a song by Gianni, and it's called For Low East Summer Walk. He said, "Thanks for doing this. Feedback is always great."
Okay, we don't know nothing yet about the genre or style, so I'm curious what it's gonna be. Okay. Yeah, from the waveform I can't say much, so just let's start listening. Okay, let me jump to another part of the song. All right. So it seems to be an instrumental day today. Yeah. The first thing I wrote down on my notes here is a genre with a big question mark. What kind of genre is that? I can tell. It's, of course, instrumental music, and it's somewhere between fusion rock with the guitar, but also a little bit of brass big band style, but not jazz at all. A little bit of Balkan beat, maybe even. Hard to tell. So, what can I say about the song? I like the way the guitar is playing, and it's played. It seems to be a real guitar in my ears, and it's a real human performance. And the performance is great of the guitar, and I think I missed the guitar solo in the middle part. Maybe we can listen to that later. But in my opinion, the guitar as a leading instrument of the song, as a really well played and interesting instrument, could be louder. It's too quiet in my opinion. It's like the voice of the song, the lead vocals, and it should be more in front of the mix, and that is one of the problems in that mix. I can't exactly make out a clear hierarchy. The leading instrument is a little bit farther behind than others. The bass, for example, and the snare drum are louder and more in front than the guitar, and there are some accompanying instruments like brass and keyboard stuffs that are as loud as the solo instrument, and that's not a good idea in my opinion. Normally, the listener should he should understand in the first moment which is the leading instrument and which is a playback or an instrument in the background. So that's one thing about the levels, and the levels also show in the analyzer curve. If we look at this, we can see that there are some ups and downs, but there's more energy in the low end and in the upper low end, like here around 80 to 100 hertz, and then another loud range at 200 hertz, which is the fundamental tone of the snare that is very loud, and the mid range where the guitar is located, that is rather quiet, and the upper mid range then again from 2 to 4 kilohertz is a little bit loud, and that leads to a somewhat imprecise but also a little bit aggressive in the high mid in the present range sound that is it's not completely perfectly balanced. As I said, I think the bass is a little bit too loud, even though it's playing a lot of interesting stuff. It shouldn't meddle with the guitar that much, and could be a little bit quieter. And same is true for me for the drums. The drums sound good, but a little bit too much in the front, and like also with the other instruments in the playback, I can tell that they are out of the box, and there are virtual instruments probably programmed with a lot of detail and a lot of work in fills and different accents and stuff, but still I can tell that this is not a real drum, and it's not a real drummer who's playing it. And the same is true for the brass, and that's something I must say. I'm not a fan of virtual brass instruments. I always prefer the real stuff, and I think even though there are great sample libraries and instruments who try to perform as brass instruments, still you can tell that they are not real. And just follow Road now on YouTube. Bass and guitar, the only real instruments, and that's audible. And I even would have guessed that the bass is like a keyboard, but still it sounds good and it's well played, even though a little bit too loud. But the brass, maybe you should think about even using other libraries, or maybe using other sounds as well, and or maybe hire a brass section and record them in a studio. That would be a great lift to the song and the mix, I must say, because, and that's another little critic. I think it's too tight. It's too perfect for that song. Everything's on point. This is completely stable from beginning to end. It sounds like 100% quantized, besides bass and guitar, and it's could be a little bit more human. Could use some human touch, and maybe do not quantize the drums and the instruments that heavily, and make it a little bit more lively. And that would add something to that song. So that's it from my part for this song. Daniel?
Yeah. What you said in the beginning about the genre, I also, when I was hearing the song, I also couldn't categorize it right away, and I still can't really point my finger at it. But all in all, I thought it was very refreshing sound-wise, especially the mixture of brass and guitar. I haven't heard that before that often, especially with that kind of rhythm. So that's definitely interesting, and it's great to hear something that you can't put in a box right away. I also thought that the guitar was great, but it could be a bit more upfront, because it was a bit mushed against with the brass section, and the bass was also very loud, so they clashed a bit. But also what you said about that it sounded a bit technical, the brass and the drums, I also think that they could be a bit more lively, yeah.
Okay, so that was our third song today. What about our schedule? Yeah, we have at least one more in petto. What can you pick and put in, Daniel?
I've got something from Rico Freitag.
Okay.
He's saying, this song was created in a home recording. Thanks for the feedback in advance.
Okay, this is Peacetime Warriors, right?
Yeah, Peacetime Warriors.
Okay, another mastered version, obviously. Pretty loud. So, put it in the analyzer, put down the volume a little bit, and off we go.
Shit on me, still it's a
play the part.
And you held your gun against my chest, but you didn't know I had a bulletproof vest, and you never thought I'd pass another of these tests. But I'm on the run and I won't come back. I want you to know shit on you like you shit on me. It took a while, took a while, took a while.
All right. So, where do I put this song? Alternative, rock, pop, indie, pop, whatever. Interesting song. I like the mood and the vibe of the song. It is a little bit uniform in my opinion. It could be a bit more of a Spannungskurve, tension line, whatever. And yeah, it needs maybe a little bit more diversity. The parts could maybe yeah, be a little bit different and sound-wise, arrangement-wise. But still, I like the mood, and maybe it's part of the feeling of the song that is in that mellow mood all the time, and it doesn't change that mood too much. Mix-wise, well, good, a good mix, a balanced mix, not yet a perfect mix. In my opinion, the drums are again a little bit too loud, bass drum and snare, too dominant, too upfront, and I don't think if that's the right decision for that song. It could be a little bit more in the mix, the bass drum and the snare. They are really, really far to the front of the mix. Especially because the rest of the arrangement, like keyboards, guitars, they all blend together in one sound. You can't easily divide the single instruments into guitars and keyboards on the other side. It's one instrumental playback made from bass, guitars, and keyboards. That sounds interesting and very atmospheric, but also a little bit blurry. And the bass drum and the snare are those two elements that come to the front. And maybe it's intentional, but maybe you could put it a little bit more together, like drums become a part of the band. The vocal sound is nice. The reverb, the delay effects, pretty well made. The depth is there, and still the vocals stay in front of the mix. In my opinion, the backing vocals or add vocals, whatever you call them, are a little bit too too widely spread on the stereo field. There's one voice on the left side and one voice on the right, and another one in the center, and this is a bit confusing. Maybe you can mix them a bit more together in the stereo mix. And the performance of the lead vocals is pretty good. I can't complain, but I heard some, not completely wrong notes, but some not perfectly in tune notes in the backing vocals, and that's something I think one should take care of these days. It's even though it's independent and not mainstream pop, you still still the listeners are used to perfect vocals, and even though most people can tell there's a wrong note, they can say vocals sound a little bit unprofessional or not perfect, and that's I would suggest to put a little bit of melodyne, very audio, even autotune, maybe not as an effect, but for the correction of the intonation. And one thing I noticed that the spectral balance, the frequency balance is okay. There's a little bit more energy in the low end, which is fine for a solid base of the mix. The low mid-range, especially from the vocals, seemed a little bit loud to me, and the vocals have a loud peak or a loud range from 1 to 2 kilohertz, and then it's down. And maybe you should look for a little bit more energy in the present range of the vocals, and for a more balanced sound in that range, and for a more open sound. On the other side, there is not too much, but some energy in the very high range, and especially the hi-hat goes up to wherever. This was an MP3, so maybe it even goes even further in the WAV file. And so, maybe you should make for a little bit more like a roll-off in the high end, for a smoother high end, and add a little bit of energy in the present range from 3 to 4, 5, 6 kHz for a more open and more balanced sound. And that's it for me for this song.
Yeah, I can basically agree on all points. I also really liked the vocal delays and the concept of the song in general, because the instrumental was very wide and open, in the sense that there was a lot of space for the vocal to sit on top, and the keyboard notes were like stretched out. It wasn't too much going on instrumentally, so you could really focus on those vocals. And as you said, I would have also liked if the drums were a bit farther behind, because they sticked a bit too much out, and by doing that they kind of lost a bit of connectivity to the rest of the instrumental. Apart from that, regarding the balance of the mix, I'm totally with you on that. And so and also about the pitch correction, I also noticed that even if it's a great vocal singer nowadays, you just need to use it because that's what people are used to, and that's what we are used to.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can't do without correction these days anymore. Not in a popular genre. It's different in jazz and classics, of course, but in everything that is pop and related genres, you need vocal correction. It can't be done without. Okay, maybe I think we can do one more.
Okay, let me see. So, do we have here? Okay, we have this song that's called An Irish Bar. And from what I can read, he wrote along a text. Hey guys, I wrote the song a couple of weeks back after moving into a bit bigger city than the one I grew up in. Me and my friends used to spend our Friday nights in this Irish bar, and whenever we go back, it just feels very nostalgic. Yes, anyhow, the instrumental is basically having this great time in the instrumental part is basically having a great time in this bar, moving to the city. Hope you liked it, and I hope the message comes through. Thanks a lot, Nico.
Okay, great. So I put it in Cubase, and it's definitely the shortest song today. It's less than 2 minutes long. it seems to be mastered, but still there's a dynamic progression in the song. On the other hand, there is a rather interesting frequency line. I'm curious what it sounds like, so let's check it out.
Just moved away from this little town I grew up in. Packed my 3 bags full of stuff that I'll never even need. I miss my friends and my family, my dog and the stars. The long drives at 2 a.m. and sex in my car. It's hard to grow up cause there's no way to stop time. I get lost like every single night. The people around you slowly start to change. You won't recognize them when they cross the street. Although I get older, I still feel the same as the child that's once down from the pictures you frame. But when I get home, I'll make sure you're around. Get a bottle of wine and turn the music real loud. Everything's different, but where we are, it feels like the time stops when we're in that Irish bar.
All right. Yeah, talking about genres. What was that? Maybe Daniel, you can say something about the instrumental, about the electronic part of the song.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I really like this song. Yeah. First of all, I was a bit thrown off by the vocal delivery, but after hearing the end of the song, it all makes sense. This reminds me very much of some hyperpop tracks, like in the electronic drop style part of the song. The snares that were used reminded me a lot of Sophie songs, and the vocal delivery in the beginning was very intimate, very upfront, and a bit lo-fi-ish. That reminds me of DLTZK, which his album Frailty last year was a big critical success, bit more experimental and hyper poppy. I actually listened to it just this morning, so yeah, great track. I like the concept, the way of how you incorporated this Irish bar as a whole part instrumentally, while leading into it with mentioning it was brilliant. So yeah, great song. From arrangement and genre-wise, I really like how you approach this in a modern way. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a fascinating genre mix. In the beginning, I thought it will be a complete folk tune, but with that electronic sound drop, complete different feeling, and it's a nice, interesting genre mix. Daniel said it before, the vocal delivery is a little bit lo-fi style. Even though maybe you could check out one or two technical aspects of the vocal performance. Well, not the performance, but the mix, the sound of the mix. It's very heavily compressed, and it's clear that you recorded with a very, very close mic, and the EQing is not yet perfect, let's say like that. The low mid-range is really loud due to the close miking, and the normal mid-range where the harmonics, they are a little bit too quiet. On the other hand, the upper frequency range around 7, 8, 10K is really loud, and there's a lot of stuff happening. And that's the peaks you can see in the analyzer. That is a really loud peak there in the energy curve and in the peak curve, and that's due to the loud sibilance and noises of the vocals are really loud, and there's a lot of click happening in the vocals. Maybe you should use something to reduce that part of the vocals. It's could be a little bit less compression and instead some declicking, denoising, whatever. There are some interesting tools to reduce clicks like that on vocal tracks, and it doesn't need to be compressed like that. Maybe at a little louder present range and reduce the very high end on the other side and work with the de-esser instead of such a strong compression, and then it's great. I like the vocal performance and the way you mix that feeling of the lyrics and this kind of mellow and also kind of I'm looking back a feeling of the song, and then this bam party feeling in the second half of the song. And it seems like they all got drunk in the end, but can be an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, but the rest of the mix is fine. I can tell that the some of the instruments are not real fiddles and Irish folk instruments, but that doesn't matter in that context. The guitar sounds nice. I think that's a real one, and the vocals are real as well. But the rest of the instrumental, of course, is done in the box. But that doesn't matter in that mixture with the electronic sounds. It's great, and the levels are well set, and the reverbs are nice, and sounds great in the end.
Yeah. Regarding the vocals, I would also like to add that I think I can tell that you were going for an unconventional sound for the vocals, so a bit overcompressed, a bit too close to the mic. But I think, like Jochen already said, you could dial that up like a bit back, like just a bit, so it still has that characteristic, but it isn't too much, especially regarding the sibilance. I think that you could just make it a bit more conventional while still keeping the unconventional character of the performance. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, but great stuff again. I'd say, Daniel, we got time for one last song. It's okay?
All right. Yeah, I will look for one. Just a minute.
Okay. So let the wheels turn.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, we got this song, Foot on the Gas,
Okay.
by Lewis O'Connell, and he wrote, "Hey there, I produced this song like a year ago and I'm very curious what you guys think. Vocals and lyrics are by a friend of mine called Bibi Burali. Cheers."
All right. Foot on the gas sounds like maybe a road trip country rock song. Let's listen.
Who knows?
Who knows? It's like the other songs before. It seems to be mastered. Oh, okay, MSTL. That's master. Okay. It is loud enough for a master, obviously, and we will see what it sounds like. Okay, interesting frequency curve again. This is not a rock song, or I'm completely wrong.
Ayo, 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 the moments, caught in the middle. Up way too high, under the water, testing my luck, or trying to be civil. I got my foot on the gas, got my foot on the gas. I be going way too fast for myself. Got my foot on the gas, got my foot on the gas. I be going way too fast for myself. Yeah. Mama said take my time, got lost in the lies. If it's got worse, then work on it. She said take your time, don't change your mind. If it's got worse, then work on it. Yo, 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 got my foot on the gas, got my foot on the gas. I be going way too fast for myself. Got my foot on the gas, got my foot on the gas. And I won't stop for no one, I won't stop for no one else now. Accelerate, accelerate, oh, I'm swerving on 'em. No way, oh, I'm swerving. No way, oh, I'm swerving on 'em. No way, oh, I spend all my days out trying to get by. Oh, sometimes it don't feel like I'm gonna survive. Yeah, time, don't change your mind. If it's got worth, then work on it. Yo, 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 got my foot on the gas, got my foot on the gas. I be going.
All right, here we go. Nice one as the last one for this session. Daniel, what would
Yeah.
you say?
I just technical points apart, I thought that song was great. It was solid. It was, I would say it's amazing. I really enjoyed that record. It was like from a vocal performance, that artist is really talented, and I could see that in the radio as a radio hit. To be honest, just from the vocal delivery, the cadences were set in a very rhythmic way. Like you were, at least I was very into that song. While listening to it, I was bobbing my head. It was a great experience overall. Yeah. And also the outro was very smooth. In between there was like a slow down piano part. I also liked that one. So yeah, in general, the vocal artist seems very talented, and maybe someday I'll hear something from her on the radio. I don't know, but I see a big potential in there.
Absolutely, yeah. And the feeling of the song is great. Got a nice atmosphere, and the mixture of the almost tribal drum parts with lots of reverb and delays on the vocals, and the cool vocal lines and the voice. She has a very unique voice. I think she's not a classically trained singer, but has that pure and really unique and interesting voice, and great sound. Daniel already mentioned some technical details. I will talk about that later, but if you want to say something about sound-wise, Daniel?
Yeah, sound-wise, I thought the synth pad, like the synthesizers, harmonized very well with the voice, and they created a great atmosphere for the artist to perform upon. I also like the drum sounds, but I think that they could be, I don't know, like sound choice wise a bit more interesting. Like they could have a bit more texture. They seemed, I don't know if it was because of the mastering or just from the sounds that were used, they seemed like a bit too compressed. There wasn't a lot of dynamic in the drum sounds that were chosen. I would have also liked to see the drums a bit more upfront, like they pushed themselves upfront through the limiting and pumped a bit, but mix wise I thought that they sometimes were swallowed by the synth pad. Apart from that, the delays were great. I thought that they were a bit too much at some points because there was already a lot going on vocally with those, with all of those vocal layers, which were all great, but in combination with all those delays, that was maybe a bit too much. So I would maybe dial the feedback a bit back on those delays. Yeah,
And maybe a little bit less ping pong.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Let me give my 50 cents on that. What I said about the artistic side and the arrangement that stays untouched by that, but there are some flaws in the mix and especially in the mastering. You definitely put on the gas and you had your foot on the pedals, so to say, of the compressor and the limiter in the master channel, and that's way too much. It's it's not a nice compression, but it really it's distorting. And even though distortion and saturation is a cool feature in some part, this distortion in the master channel is too much, and it's pumping and it's fluttering, and the dynamics are completely crushed together. Even though it's not that loud, you could use that loudness. It's like -8.1. It's loud, but you can reach that loudness without distortion and without pumping effects. Maybe you should use less compression and a little bit more limiting in the master channel, and also do not all the compression in the master channel, but do something in the groups and the single instruments, like the drums that Daniel said that they are all compressed by the limiter and the compression in the master channel. But if you control them as single instruments and then later as in a drum group and later in a playback group, you don't have to put all the work to the master channel, and that's maybe something that could help in that aspect. Daniel talked about the delays. I think they are great. They're a little bit too loud and a little bit too much of an effect happening left and right and ping-pongish, but still great stuff. I like the sound design in many ways, the synth pad and what's happening in the low end. The drum sound, for me, they could be nice in the end. I think with the right compression and the maybe a combination of reverb and compression could help, but still, for me, the drum sound itself from the choice of single instruments is great. But what's need to be mentioned, in my opinion, is again the sibilance of the vocals, that they are really loud, and maybe you could use a de-esser or a dynamic EQing on that just to keep them a little bit under control, and rework your mastering, and maybe that's just the one thing that has to be done. I like the song a lot, and the mix is great in many parts to me, and do the mastering again. That would help. I really must say. Okay, anything left for you, Daniel?
No, I think you said everything. That was, yeah.
Okay, so I think that was our last song for today then. We will be back for another Show Your Mix session, an English one in, I think, 2 months or 3 months, and there will be a German Show Your Mix session on our German YouTube channel in a few weeks. keep in touch with our website and check out the hofa-college.de or .com for the next upcoming workshops in our channel. And if there's anything you want to know about audio engineering and learning audio engineering, check out our website as well. There are interesting courses and online courses you can find there. It's worth taking a look. So that's it from us, from me and Daniel for the first time. I think it was not his last time. Enjoyed doing that with you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that too.
Okay, so goodbye to everybody out there and have a nice day. Have a nice weekend after tomorrow and see you next time. Bye-bye.